Hello, I'm joining you today here at Whitefish Island. I would like to acknowledge is the traditional Ojibwe territory. Now, the St. Mary's River and rapids were created by glacial activity after the last ice age, and they were formed at the foot of the Canadian Shield. The rapids bridge a 20-foot or 6.1 meter drop between the water levels of Lake Superior and that of Lake Huron. Due to the dense forest in North America, the water was the main source of transport. The St. Mary's River and rapids were the only way to get between Lake Superior and Lake Huron. So that meant that it was a vital route for transportation. The rapids were an obstacle that the travelers were required to portage around. It created this natural stopping point. Long before the Europeans set foot in North America, the indigenous people were using these rapids as their source of transportation. Also, while they were traveling through, they discovered that the rapids were plentiful in whitefish. The area was also rich in vegetation and wildlife. With that, word quickly spread. So therefore, this then became the seasonal gathering place where many different indigenous peoples would congregate to catch the whitefish. Some indigenous people began to form permanent settlements here, such as the Ojibwe people. We have found objects that used by the Ojibwe people that date back to 7,000 BCE. That means that they were here for over 9,000 years. The settlement was known as Bawating. Now, Bawating means the gathering place. So each fall, the groups would gather here from all around, all the way down to southern Ontario, all the way down into Michigan, all the way around the Great Lakes, would come up here to fish, to create their alliances, to solidify those alliances, to trade anything that they could think of, would do here at Bawating, and all while maintaining the peace. Europeans then began to arrive and explore North America roughly around the mid to late 1500s. One prominent individual in Canadian history is French explorer Samuel de Champlain. Now, he sent his man, Etienne Brulé, to explore the land west of Quebec and learn about the indigenous peoples. In 1617, Etienne Brulé reported that he had reached Boarding. And in 1622, he returned here to Boarding. When he arrived in 1622, it was then that he renamed Bawating to Sault de Gaston. So directly translates to jump. And in regards to the water, it was often referring to, say, waterfalls and rapids. And Gaston was the brother of the French king at that time. Brulé was credited as being the first European to discover this region. Later, in 1642, Jesuit missionaries began to arrive in the area, and they found it a suitable place to establish a mission. A permanent mission with surrounding palisade was constructed in 1668 on the south side of the river. Father Marquette, who built this mission, renamed the area Sault Ste. Marie, after the Virgin Mary who appeared to him in a vision on the water. This would later be shortened to Sault Ste. Marie, or Sault Ste. Marie as we know it today, though the date of this change is unknown. After the fires that destroyed the original mission and a threat of an Iroquois invasion, the missionaries left in 1689. This land was an ideal defendable location as the rapids forced travelers to stop from either direction and portage. This way, whoever was established here had a clear view of incoming vessels from either direction. Fur traders also traveled this route to reach the shores of Lake Superior. The fur trade was a booming business, and voyageurs, who were the transport drivers of their time, would consistently be traveling back and forth on the waterways akin to today's highways. To maintain French control of the area, the rapids and surrounding area were granted to two French nobles who built a fort here in 1751. However, after the Treaty of Paris, the land was then ceded to British control. Alexander Henry, an important fur trader, set up residence in the fort to gain a monopoly on the area. The Northwest Company, formed by independent traders in 1779 to 1780, who absorbed many other independent traders. The Northwest Company set up a post here, gaining control of the gateway to the west, as the rapids were sometimes referred to as. The Northwest Company became the leading company in Lake Superior region and eventually built a canoe lock here in 1798 to allow travelers through the rapids, the remains of which can still be found near the machine shop and the conservatory. Forts were being built on the water: Fort St. Joseph, Detroit, Mackinac, Niagara Falls, etc., to protect and defend their land against attacks from the water, as this was the most common means of attack due to water being the main source of travel. The War of 1812 had many naval battles due to both sides attacking the other transport ships. This is the reason for the Rideau Canal being built. So, as the ships were fighting during the War of 1812, many of the Canadian vessels, especially along Lake Erie, were being captured and attacked by American troops. Therefore, after the war, Canadians were very worried about another American attack, as tensions were still somewhat high. To prevent Americans attacking Canadian ships again, they decided to build an inland waterway system that would negate this possibility. Finally, we were able to gain the means to build the Rideau Canal. However, finally, after the Rideau Canal had been built, a new mode of transportation had come into the picture: locomotion. So now, with the easy train routes that could reach from one side of the country all the way to the other, it made the Rideau Canal moot. Water was vital for transport. Cities and towns are now connected by a network of roads and highways, so they have easy transport in and out, and that is why historically towns were set up and grew along the water. The settlement of Sault Ste. Marie grew after the Northwest Company post closed due to their amalgamation with the Hudson's Bay Company in 1821. Industry began to develop. Mining and lumber companies would also use the water to transport their goods. Later industries would even harvest the water's power for electricity. Today, the rapids are still used to generate power, and our locks are some of the busiest in the world, as lake freighters are constantly transporting goods between the east and the west. In the tradition of this land, we have established our annual fall rendezvous. Just as Sault Ste. Marie was original Bawating, the gathering place where people would gather each fall. Here at the Ermatinger Clergue National Historic Site, we ourselves gather each fall with our friends to share the history of this area, the Indigenous peoples, the Métis, the Voyageurs, the Coureurs de Bois, and the British settlers. We're happy that you can share this fall rendezvous with us, and we hope that you have learned something new. Thank you. Bye.